Okay, guys, so this is the review for the skills this week, multiplying fraction word problems and dividing fractions. What I'd like for you to do is go ahead and watch this video and then print off the PDF that's attached to your Google Classroom. So it's 5NF6 and 5NF7 review PDF. So just click on that, print it off, do the work, or you can just pull that document up on your device, do the work on another sheet of paper, and then I want you to re-watch this video to check your work, okay? So let's get started. Emma bought 3 3 4/5 pounds of flour. Sophia bought 1 2/3 times as much as Emma. How many pounds of flour did Sophia buy? So if Emma bought 3 4/5 pounds of flour, and Sophia bought 1 2/3 times the amount Emma did. So we're gonna multiply. So your product, or the amount that Sophia is gonna end up with, is going to be more than Emma, because she bought 1 2/3 more than times than Emma did. So because 1 2/3 is greater than 1, your product is gonna be greater than the other factor. Okay, I'm gonna flip these into improper fractions to multiply just to make it easier. And this equals 95/15. Simplified, I believe it equals 6 5/15, which is simplified to 6 1/3 pounds. She's got a lot of flour. Ben has a half a cup of sugar and he uses 1/5 of the sugar to make lemonade. What fraction of the sugar did Ben use to make his lemonade? Well, you might be like, well, he used 1/5. Well, he used 1/5 of 1/2. So actually, how much did he actually use? So if I start off with 1/2, I'm going to take 1/5 of 1/2. Okay. So my product is going to be less than both my factors. My product, or what he used, is going to be obviously less than 1/2 because he's using a smaller portion of the half, or he's using a fraction of the half, but it's also going to be smaller than 1/5 because you're multiplying by a fraction less than 1. So since both these fractions are less than 1, your product's going to be less than both of them. So this is easy. You just multiply across. If you were to do this visually, you would take your 1/2, right? So this is what he starts off with, and he's going to take 1/5 of that. So it's this tiny little piece. So that's 1 out of 10. All right, Fernando has a recipe that calls for 3 3/4 cups of sugar. I actually just did this today when I was making cookies because I wanted to make half of the batch. So I multiplied each ingredient by 1/2 because I was taking 1/2 of it. So he wants to only use 2/3. So we're going to take 2/3 of 3 3/4, okay? So I'm going to flip this one into an improper fraction, which I think is 12 plus 3. It's 15 times 2/3. So that equals 30/12, which I believe is 2 6/12, which is equivalent to 2.5 cups of sugar. All right, Aaron recorded how many miles he ran each day for 1 week. Aaron ran 2/3 as much on Tuesday as he did on Wednesday. So here's Wednesday, and I'm going to take 2/3 of that to find out what he ran on Tuesday. Now, he ran less on Tuesday than he did on Wednesday because he only ran 2/3 of this. So since this is less than 1, and you multiply it by this number, you're going to get a number that is less than this. So I'm going to flip this into an improper fraction. 7/2 times 2/3 equals 14/6, which equals 12 2/6, which is equivalent to 12 12. Yikes. 2 1/3. Sorry, guys, it is late. 2 1/3. So obviously 2 1/3 is less than 3 1/3. So we might as well, we don't know the information for Friday, so we're going to leave that blank. And we don't need it because it just talks about Tuesday. So our final answer would be 2 1/3 miles on Tuesday. All right, this last one, write a word problem to represent the following number sentence and then solve. So this is 1/2 times 5. So you can say it's like 1/2 taken 5 times. So you might say like, Miss Mahoney has 5 bags of candy. Each bag has 1/2 pounds. How many total pounds does she have? Right? So 1/2 times 5 is 5 halves. Now you're going to get less than 5, right? Because you are multiplying by something that is less than 1. So this equals 2 1/2. She has 2.5 pounds of candy. All right, dividing fractions. Let's start. Julia bakes 2 cakes and plans to cut them into eighths. How many 1/8 size pieces will she have? So you got to figure out. Now, this is harder than multiplication because you can't just flip the factors around and multiply. You can't just flip the divisor and the dividend around and divide and get the right quotient. You have to pay really close attention to which one is the dividend. What are you starting with? What are you dividing? And then which one is the divisor? What are you dividing into? So I'm starting with 2 cakes, right? So that's my dividend. And I want to divide that by 1/8. So I'm trying to figure out how many 1/8 slices are in 2 cakes. So if like you drew it out this way, it would be 2 divided by 1/8, right? So to do this, you're trying to figure out how many of those 1/8 pieces. So like if you were to draw it out, which is kind of fitting because they're cakes, right? And these look like slices of cakes. Each one of these is an eighth. This is 1 cake, this is 2 cakes. So to actually do this, you leave your dividend the same, change the division sign to a multiplication sign, flip the fraction or your divisor to find the reciprocal, and you get 16 pieces. 16 1/8 pieces. Weston has 1/4 pan of lasagna left. He gives the leftover lasagna to his 3 friends to share equally. What portion of the whole pan of lasagna does each friend get? So we start off, sorry, I was going to draw it first. We start off with 1/4 of the lasagna, right? And he's going to divide that amongst his 3 friends. And you might say like, well, they each get 1/4 of the lasagna, but they're getting 1/4 of the, like there's only 1/4 of the lasagna left. So I want to know how much of the whole lasagna does each kid get. All right, so like visually, if this is my 1/4 of my lasagna left, actually I should probably do it the other way. Cut it this way. So if this is my 1/4 right here, I need to split that into 3 pieces, right? Now I want to know the whole lasagna, so I'm also going to split that into 3 pieces. So then what's one of these, right? So to do this, you leave your dividend the same, you multiply it by the reciprocal of 3. The reciprocal of 3 is 1/3, so each kid gets, or each person, I don't know why I keep calling them kid, each person gets 1/12 of the whole lasagna, of the whole pan. All right, the next one, what is the value of the expression 1/6 divided by 2? So when it asks you that, it just says solve. Solve the expression. This is expression, there's no equal sign, so we're going to solve for that. To do that, we leave the dividend the same, change division to multiplication, turn 2 into the reciprocal, which is 1/2, and we get 1/12. Same with this one, 3 divided by 1/5. Leave the dividend the same, turn division into multiplication, and the reciprocal of 1/5 is 5/1. Multiply, and you get 15. All right, Mrs. Thomas buys 3-pound bag of candy for a party. She wants to put the candy into bags so that each bag has 1/8 pound of candy. Select the equation that shows how to calculate the number of bags of candy that Miss Thomas can make. So I'm not gonna go through each one of these right now. I'm just gonna read the problem and figure out what I think it is and see if one of these matches up to it. So she's starting with 3 bags of candy, right? So we've got 3 whole bags of candy, and we want to figure out, if I take this 3 whole bags of candy, how many 1/8 bags can I fill up? So I'm dividing 3 by 1/8. I'm trying to figure out how many times 1/8 can fit into 3 holes. So to do that, you leave your dividend the same, change division to multiplication. Reciprocal of 1/8 is 8, and I get 24. So she can fill up 24 bags of candy. Which I don't see that here. Is it supposed to be division, maybe? 24 bags of candy, right? She wants to put the candy into bags so that each bag has 1/8 pound of candy. Select the equation that shows how to calculate the number of bags of candy that Miss Thomas can make. So one of these, it should be this one, but this might supposed to be a division sign maybe. That's why I'm glad I just did it right here instead of checking this work. So 3 divided by 1/8 equals 24. This one is the correct answer. Seth has 3 yards of wrapping paper. He plans to cut the wrapping paper into pieces that are 1/4 yard long. Draw a number line to show how Seth found the length of each piece of wrapping paper. So if we start with 3 and we're gonna divide that into fourths, we want to figure out how many 1/4 can go into 3. So I'm gonna draw a picture just because we haven't worked a ton with number lines. And then I'm gonna figure out how I'm gonna draw it into a number line. So here's my 3 holes. Each one of these gets split into fourths. You can draw 1, 2, 3, 4. That's my third, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's my third, right? So I have a total of 12 pieces because 3 times 4 equals 12, right? All right, so if I wanted to do that in a number line, it would pretty much look the same. You could draw 0 here and 3 here, which means 1 would go here and 2 would go there, right? And I actually am not working with any of this, so I don't need that part because I'm not using anything below 1. Okay, so then if this is the 1 yard of wrapping paper, and he has a full 3 yards, so I should do that, right? All right, so if this is the 1 yard, each one of these yards gets split into fourths, and this one gets split into fourths, and this gets split into fourths. So he has a total of 4 here, 4 here, 4 here. All right, Dean has 3 yards of wrapping paper, and he plans to cut the wrapping paper into pieces that are 1/4 yard long. How many pieces of wrapping paper will Dean have? Isn't that the same thing we just did right here? I think it is. So 3 divided by 1/4 equals 3 times 4 over 1 equals 12. He has 12 pieces of wrapping paper. All right, so if you are to this point, you've watched this video, but go ahead and there's a couple errors like this one I think I may have done wrong, but the rest of them should be okay. And so go ahead and do this work and then come back and check your work with mine to make sure you did it right, and then take the 2 quizzes that are in your Google Classroom. Have a good weekend.